Alrighty. Sorry, it's just getting everything set up. So, guys, I am really excited about tonight. So, I'm trying out a little bit new technology. So, I've got another camera over here. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this camera and that one, but that one tracks for me a little bit more. So, we're going to talk about kennel training. So, some dogs really have a hard time with accepting the kennel. There are some dogs that never are going to love it, but getting to the point where they can accept it and go in it when we need them to can be really helpful for the times where we actually do have to utilize a kennel. Once my puppies are able to be out without destroying my house, then I hardly use the kennel at all. But up until that point, the kennel is there and it gives my dog a safe place to be. So when I do have to leave the house, they're not eating things that they are not supposed to. So one thing that I see or hear often from people is, okay, so we bring this puppy home, they're teeny tiny, we can just put them in the kennel and we can close that door, right? That's all we need to do. Oh, I just wanted to let you know that I can't see comments. So I will at the end go back and address all of the questions. So feel free to type questions in. Just know I'm not ignoring you. I just can't see them while I'm doing all of this. So, but please ask away. I want to cover everything to do with kennels today. So again, we bring our little puppies home and we're carrying them around and we're just able to put them in the kennel and close the door and then we're done. And what I tend to see happen with that is when they get a little bit older, they don't really appreciate us putting them in the kennel like we have been doing. And so we start to see some of our puppies get a little bit frustrated with us moving them into the kennel. And I see a lot of people that go, oh, my dog gets aggressive around the kennel. I go, well, are you picking them up and having to put them in? And the answer usually is yes, not always, but usually yes. And so we need to go ahead and switch this kennel situation to my dog can go into the kennel all on their own command. And we're going to just work on that first. That is really, really important for those teeny babies or even our older dogs that may not love the kennel. Again, the goal is to get our dogs to be okay and accept the kennel versus it just being a place of huge stress. My shepherd lived in a kennel. She didn't live in the kennel. She spent all the time when we were gone away from the house in her kennel for the first 2 years, and then we never had to kennel her again. Oakley was in the kennel for maybe 2 months, and then she was free because she wasn't destroying the house and she absolutely hated it. And then Skippy was probably 6 months when we tried the first time out, and she ate my carpet while we were gone, and so she went back in the kennel for a couple more months. So with obedience work, we don't use cookies, but when I'm trying to condition a dog to a kennel, so a brand new puppy, like when we brought Athena home, her kennel stress was so much that my big goal was really just to have her be okay being in the kennel. And some of that process looked like me utilizing a lot of cookies while she was in the kennel. So as I'm teaching my dogs how to go in, into the kennel all on their own, I'm going to give it a name. I usually say kennel up, but you can call it whatever you want to. And then the whole goal here is just to get our dogs to go in and out, in and out, in and out. Because typically when, oh, did you see Skippy heard the cookie? She's like, oh, okay, hey, I'm awake now. People were laughing at her yesterday in my obedience class, online obedience class, because she was like, yeah, I'm not going to work. I don't want to work. So as we're starting this kennel work, we want to let them go in and out, because they are typically, especially the ones that are frustrated, are used to go to your kennel and maybe we're like pulling them in and putting them in that kennel, and then we close the door and we walk away. And it is like, hey, not cool. So what we're going to do is I will get comfy. I'm going to go sit on the ground right next to the kennel, and we're just going to play the kennel game. So let me switch screens. And like I said, you may be able to see this one, but I'm not sure. All right. Okay. So I just go ahead and I'm gonna get comfy here on the ground with my dog. So we got a nice cookie. I'm just going to throw it in there, and if she wants to go in, great. If she doesn't, that's fine too. But she goes in and she gets to come right back out. Here's the big important thing. When I'm playing this game, she can step in and just get a cookie without going all the way in. That's totally fine. However, Kennel up. Hopefully you're gonna not have to help her. Now, look, here's Oakley, who's like, I hate the kennel, but look, I'll get in there for it. Okay, I either need one or the other. Here. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna get down next to this kennel. So I may not throw it in very far that time, but I am going to further back so that she can actually get into the kennel, and then she can ride out to be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. With the kennel door never closing, because that is the big thing. Is if your dog is so used to that door, the dog going in and then the door closing and you walking away, what we want to do is just create this fun little game where they're like, hey, cool, I go in the kennel, I get to come right out. When I was working with Athena, I did stand above and I could drop through, so I wasn't in the way of her going in and out of town. So you're gonna play this game, you may just like grab a handful of like their food or some cookies throughout the day, maybe 5 minutes, and you're just gonna play come up 20 times, and then you move along. I like to, as I move along, if the dog goes and finds something else to do, I will just drop a cookie in there or maybe two. So if we're out doing something else and my dog happens to wander into that kennel, I'm like, hey, cool, look, I got a cookie. So not only are we going, hey, we can go in and out of the kennel all we want, but we're also leaving little trails of goodness in there so that, you know, if they happen to stick their head in and explore, they're gonna get a cookie. So this is what I did a lot with Athena on that first day. We did a lot of acceptance into the kennel, but we did a lot of work back and forth, back and forth. And every time I asked her to go in the kennel, there was either a ton of like kibble. She was very, very, very hungry. So she would go in there for the kibble, but we'd be out in the garage. I'd leave that kennel door open. There's always kibble in there. So anytime she'd go in, she's like, hey, cool, this kennel isn't all that bad. Again, I like to get on the ground and sit there. So it's not me constantly being up and down, up and down. I'm just gonna get comfy cozy. So that is the kennel game I play to teach them how to go in and out all on their own. Once they're going in very readily for me without that cookie, yeah. What we're gonna do now is play close the door. And then you can give a cookie and then open it back up. Good job. Yeah. So I'm just now going to start getting her used to that door being closed. It's not latched, it's nothing like this. And these are just really short little bursts. So I'm not locking her in here and walking it away. I am just giving her an opportunity to be in the kennel. and then coming out. This is what I am doing to teach my dogs to kennel up all on their own. Kennel up. Kennel. Good girl. That's a pretty high step in there. Move to closing it. And that's kind of where our next step comes in. So I like to teach the dog that it's okay for me to leave and come back and I'm gonna come back. So all on that first day with Athena, this is all I was doing, is going in and out, in and out, in and out. We worked on being calm in that kennel. And then we had some freak out when we'd leave. She did calm in the kennel fairly quickly, but we started working on me just walking out of sight. I'm still in the garage, or I'm still where the kennel was. She just couldn't see me. And then I would come back in and ignore, and then I go and move in and out. So we have a dog that is really struggling with separation anxiety while in the kennel. We're not going to really do much other than we're gonna put them in their kennel. And we can spend some time with them being calm. So with Athena, I had a keyword, I did shh, and that was to help her calm down. So I started here where she's running circles, 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 and it was shh. And be calm enough to get that cookie, and then she can go back to circles. But it is shh. You can say settle or something like that, where we're really just teaching the dog that, hey, if you stop for a second and calm down, these are great. Now with Athena, within a few minutes, I could tell her shh, and she would start dropping into a down. And so we moved to shh, and there was a cookie immediately in the kennel as soon as she calmed down. And so we just spent a lot of time. The kennel door was closed. I wasn't even going to open it. We spent probably the first 7 or 8, 10 minutes in that kennel where she'd do circle, circle, circle. I'm waiting for that calm. As soon as I see it, I'm giving her that cookie. Woohoo, good puppy. And then she'd start her circles again, and we'd go shh. As soon as you see that calm, we give that cookie. So if I have a dog that's freaking out in that kennel and they absolutely hate it, the best and easiest thing to do is get comfy right here. So again, we've showed the dog that they can go in and out. Not every time the door closes are they locked in and we leave. We're just going to kind of hang out here, help the dog to calm and relax, but I'm still here supporting them. So the dogs or our teeny puppies who really, really, really struggle with that kennel training, we can come and have them do their 2-hour nap. And maybe I sit on the ground where I am reinforcing that quiet. And it doesn't have to be for 2 hours, but I'm reinforcing that quiet. So that every time they go in that kennel, we're not having to wait for them to cry it out, cry it out, cry it out. But sitting here where we don't even necessarily have to be talking to them, but we can kind of incorporate just this calmness where it's like, hey, it's no big deal to be here in the kennel, where they can calm, they can relax. I'm still here. And once they can calm and relax in the kennel really well, that's when I'm going to start moving into that. You don't want to call it separation anxiety, but some puppies, they like freak out as soon as you leave the room. So this is my progression. First, we're just doing the in and out, in and out, in and out. Second, and leaving the kennel open and leaving cookies in there. So that kind of keeps drawing them back to the kennel. So we're just creating a really positive placement. The second thing we're going to do, since if I close the door and leave and my puppy freaks out, I'm just going to come sit here. When they're calm, I'm going to give some cookies and go back to my business. But I am sitting here next to the kennel. So I spend a lot of time sitting out in my garage because that's the only place that Athena could actually calm down for us at the beginning in her kennel. And I spent a lot of time just sitting with her, helping her through that calm. And this is a lot of what it looked like. If she was even laying down or there's a moment of stillness, she was getting a cookie. She was pretty severe as far as that goes. But with a puppy that maybe is, settling like this, you don't have to get cookie after cookie after cookie. You're just going to sit here and be that support for the dog. And then every once in a while, yeah, hey, good puppy. And what we're trying to build is if my dog has a really hard time in the kennel for 5 minutes, whether I'm here or away, I'm going to be here waiting for those moments of calm, which is going to allow me to, hey, good, that was the calm we wanted. It's going to allow you to build calm longer and longer and longer in the kennel. So when Athena came, I honestly felt like she was going to struggle in the kennel for a very long time. Our first session of this made the biggest difference because she really understood that concept of if I'm calm, things are good. And so we were able to move through it a lot quicker than I thought we would. Good girl. Okay. I'm going to move this over. And what I'm going to do here next is show you what I start doing. Nice close up of me. What I start doing with dogs that struggle with me leaving the room while they're in the kennel. They're totally able to come and relax while I'm right there. So as soon as I walk out, they start losing their mind. We can also utilize this with dogs that do have some separation anxiety. And what we're going to do is the dog is in the kennel and I'm just going to walk and go around the corner and I'm just going to wait like a minute, not even very long, especially with a dog that's really freaking out. I'm just going to kind of pop out and then I pop back in and I'm going to completely ignore the dog. Maybe every 5th time I pop out, if the dog is calm, I'll go put a cookie in the kennel. Oh, what are you, puppy? And I'm just going to start going in and out, in and out, in and out, but we're not going to acknowledge the dog unless there's calmness. And I will see if I can find the video I did with Athena. It wasn't super clear, but I'm not going to say anything to the dog as I leave. I'm just going to pop behind here. I'm just going to wait for a second. And typically our dogs are like freaking out, barking and whining and all that fun stuff. And I just pop back in and maybe I go find something and I get busy over here where the dog sees me, I'm here and they're still freaking out, but I'm completely ignoring. If they get to the point where they're calm, you can go give a cookie, but then I'm going to just repeat the process. Move back here behind this doorway in my garage. I would go the other side and then I was going into the house, but the goal was I would go, I'd wait a few minutes, let her kind of relax, and then I would come back out, ignore until she was calm. And we got to the, bless you. Did you catch that in your nose? To the point where she was able to hold that calm. So the first few days I would leave, she'd see me pull out and she just like freak out. And then as soon as we came into the garage, she'd freak out. Within like 2 days, I was leaving and she was laying in her kennel, just being like, okay, I'm not thrilled that you're leaving, but okay. And then I would come into the garage and she'd just be like laying there. As soon as I got out, she'd like lose her mind. But we were making this progress where she could actually stay calm when I was leaving and when I was coming back. And the time that she freaked out in the kennel, as we were leaving, decreased very quickly. So instead of it being a 10-minute long freak out, we were able to, because that was the first few days, was I would have to leave her in the kennel. She'd lose her mind for about 10 minutes. She'd start howling, and that's when I knew she was done. And so while we were working on comfort in the kennel and being able to just be, there were times where I was like, I can't sit out here with you. And she did have those tiny moments of having to find that settle in the kennel all on her own. Now, if my dog is like freaking out and trying to bust out of a kennel and it's unsafe, we're not going to be doing a lot of that. But within a day or so of us really working on this, her freak out from 10 minutes went to like a minute. So I go back inside and hear like whining and she'd bark, and then she'd howl and she was done. So you should start seeing your dog kind of progressing very quickly into being just okay in that kennel, even when you're not around. Some dogs are going to get it quick. Some dogs is going to take a little bit of work. Those dogs that are really struggling, you're just going to have them in the other room and we're going behind and back in and behind and back in, behind and back in. So I'm working with dogs with separation anxiety. I work through it in a similar way, but a little bit different. I call it Sarah forgets things, because I just remember one day we were leaving for a trip and I'm like trying to get out the door, and the dogs are inside, people are coming to take care of them, and I am going in and out because I forgot like a bazillion things. So I go in, I'd run and grab something and I'd run back out. And every time I came in, my dogs were and they're like freaking out and jumping around me and so excited, and I'd ignore them and I go grab, the suitcase I forgot, and I go get back in the car. And then a minute later I came back in and the dog's like, yeah. And after 3 or 4 times I came in and they just like looked at me and went back to sleep. And every time I came in, they looked at me and they went back to sleep. And so coming, instead of like going and extending my time, like I'm gonna go stand outside the door for 5 minutes. Instead, I find it easier to do like, oh, I forgot something. I'm gonna walk in, ignore you, and walk back out and ignore you, walk in, ignore. So they're seeing me more often, or they're gonna see you more often, but there's still none of that interaction. And then we get to the point where we don't let them out until they are actually calm, when it is time to bring them out. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'll come back and answer all the questions, is when we let them out of the kennel, it needs to be calm. So if we've just done all this work and we've got the, hey, look, we've got a nice calm dog. If we're just like, woohoo, and we let them right out, they're going to go back to like being crazy. So with Athena, with her, I don't know, with her, it was a pretty crazy letting her out. So we got nice and calm, but as soon as I came in, this latch, she'd start losing her mind. So what I had to do was I'd open the kennel, do that, open the kennel door, and I would hold it here. And I would give that shh or that settle command. And that she didn't have to be laying down, she didn't have to be doing anything, but she couldn't be turning circles. So I might just be waiting here, well, and I'm holding it close, and she's doing circle. And as soon as she relaxes, like, oh, hey dog, or a release command, and they can come right out. So what we're really trying to teach them here is you don't come out until you're calm. But the first few times we do this, we want to release the moment they are calm, so that they're getting this really quick cue. And I'm not necessarily giving a cookie. It is holding. The dog is freaking out. They're so excited. You see 1 second of pop, and they get to come out. And then we're done with the session. But every time I went to let Athena out, it was like I had to plan 5. Here's Skippy. I'd have to plan 5-10 minutes of going out and waiting for her to calm down before I could let her out. Because we just couldn't let her out without having that pause. So again, you have to go back. I'm holding the dog's kennel. If I walk out, the dogs get completely calm, but as soon as they get to the kennel, or as soon as they see me, they're up and they're moving all around. I don't necessarily have to go away. I'm just going to go ahead and hold my door closed, and I'm just waiting for that moment of calm. Oh, you're gonna go back in, maybe cookie. Oh yeah. I'm holding it, waiting for that moment of calm. As soon as I get it, I'm gonna let them out. We got to the point where Athena would like tiny calm, and I go to open, and she was about to rush, and so I just close the door again, and we wait. See a tiny calm, I start opening it. She tried to rush out. We close it, and we were just be waiting. You don't get to come out until we have that calm. So I start opening it. If she tried to rush out, we'd close it. And then once she was calm, she could come on out and we'd move along in our day. So, kennel training. Some dogs, I'm going to go ahead and back over here. Okay, some dogs have, can you move it? There we go. Some dogs easy for them to kennel. We never have an issue. And it's just kind of natural and they love their kennel. Other dogs, we maybe have had a breeder that's really worked hard on that kennel training, which helps you out a lot. But the first few days when we bring them home, especially if they've never been in a kennel or they've never been in a kennel alone. So sometimes we'll do kennel training. The breeders can do kennel training with the puppies together in a kennel, but then you start separating them out. There's no more sibling in there. It can get really rough. So I really like to just, as soon as I bring a puppy home, play that kennel game. If I bring home a rescue, I'm going to go out and we're just going to spend a lot of time playing the kennel game so that they're getting used to going in and out without me having to go get them and shove them in the kennel, because that's going to be your best, most favorite thing in the whole world. And it's a lot of work right here at the very beginning, working through all of these things, but it makes your life so much easier when you can be like, hey, kennel, and then you go get in their kennel and you can go close them in. And when you get home, you can let them out without them losing their mind. Again, it takes some work, but it is worth it in the end. So right there, kennel doors open. There's not really a cookie in there, but if there was and she was going in there, she'd be like, oh, cool, kennel. I like to go in the kennel because there's cookies. Sometimes I find a cookie, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I find a surprise, sometimes I don't. But those type of things really help draw the dog back into the kennel in really good ways. So let me find questions. See if they left. Let me see them with them. All right. Okay, it's not showing any questions, so totally fine. If you are catching this on the replay and you have questions, feel free to post them below. I'd love to answer them. Kennel training isn't for everybody. And if you don't use a kennel, that's totally fine. I just encourage you to have them used to a kennel just in case you have to utilize it somewhere. So having them just comfortable in a kennel where they don't have to spend a lot of time in it, but they're okay going in it is going to be beneficial. I know I've heard lots of issues with people that have to like evacuate and their dogs have to go kennel in a shelter, like shelter in place type area, and the dogs that can't go in a kennel and be okay in a kennel have a really, really, really hard time. So kennels are an excellent tool. I know people that use them for their whole dog's life. They have them set up. It's their dog's little safe haven, and that's excellent. Use them. And then there's some people who use them until their dogs don't need them anymore. And that's kind of where I am. I use them until I don't need them. But if you have questions, let me know. I'll be putting a guide together. I'll probably be next week. My son has surgery tomorrow, so I will have that done next week. I'll post the guide underneath here that kind of just goes through those 4 steps of teaching our dogs how to kennel and accept the kennel in a little more healthy way. So if you have questions, let me know. Actually, I will go ahead, since I don't think anybody's on, I'm just going to go ahead and pull up some of the videos I have of Athena and me working, and I'm just going to walk through them. That way, if you would like to watch them and with me going over them in detail, kind of what I did with Skippy, just with a dog that actually needed some kennel work. We have the information out here, but if you don't want to watch anymore, you can go ahead and leave, and I will post the times that I've had, so you can go follow up if you would like to go back and watch. I'm going to pull up some videos with Athena and kind of go over that process that I had. Hey, Lisa, it was good to have you here. I'm glad it was helpful. So when Athena came home, we had to do things a little bit backwards. As far as the kenneling goes, like I showed you, we were playing the kennel game and then we were working on relaxing, and so on. With her, it really was, it was really all about getting that calm in the kennel. So let me see if I can find them. It's my first kennel session. This is sped up, but this is what she would do constantly. We were, this is constant. It really was. I got that little pause. I give her a cookie and she'd lose her mind, but you can see after a little bit, those circles get less intense. And we have maybe even her bum on the ground a little bit longer. She's still doing circles, but now we're getting that lay down because I sat down on the ground next to her. Again, I am really just trying to get her nice and calm in this kennel. And that for her looked like me being right there and waiting for those moments where she actually showed me a second of calm. Right there, she got a cookie. She's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna do a circle, but I'm coming way faster right there. I got a cookie. Oh, I don't even circle that time. Oh, here I go again. I'm gonna wait. There's cookie. I got to the point where we were doing this, and then instead of giving a cookie immediately, I would get to the point. Oh my goodness, I don't think I'm sharing my screen. Sorry guys. It's late. All right, so here's her kind of doing her freak out. We got to the point where we calmed fairly quickly. So we turn a circle and then she would wait for that cookie. And then we turn a circle and she'd wait for that cookie. So it more became this like circle, wait, circle, wait, circle, wait. And then it got to the point where we were just waiting. And then it got to the point where I would walk up to the kennel and she would just lay down and be calm. And we just spent a lot of time hanging out here, having her in that down position and calming. So that was a sped up. I'll show it one more time, sped up. She's circling. This is kind of what she did every single time she got in that kennel. And she was freaking out and barking and barking and barking and just that high pitched shepherd whine. And so getting her to the point where we didn't have to do as many circles was really my goal. When she went to her forever home, I think it was 3 or 4 days in, and Rachel told me she's not circling at all anymore, which was a big deal because all she did, whether she was in a kennel, she was circling, or she was out anywhere, she was circling, circling, circling. And so we really wanted to get rid of those nice little circles. So here is that in and out kennel work that I did. So I showed that that very first thing I did with Skippy was just teaching her how to go in and out all on her own. So I'm giving her a kennel up command. I throw a cookie in the back. She goes in, she gets to eat it. Awesome. And then she can come right back out. She didn't, which is totally fine. So if they want to stay in there, that's awesome. If they don't, they can come right out. But as you can see, she stays in there. I'm just going to throw a couple cookies in there for her so that she just goes, oh, kennels aren't super, super bad. So we're just doing this kennel and I send her in. She gets some cookies and she gets to come out. I am working to the point where I'm asking her to kennel and then I am pausing and waiting before I give her a cookie because I want her to be going in all on her own. And I'm not forcing it. So if she was like, I don't really want to go in, I'm not going to force it. We're also working on taking a cookie gently. She's jaws. So if she doesn't want to go in, I don't force it. I'm just going to wait. We're going to go in and out, in and out, in and out. I think we get to the point where I close the door, I open it, she can come right back out, and then we go right back in. Close the door. And then I'll let her out. We just want that calmness before we let her out, but we're not like walking away or anything like that. We're just getting them used to going in the kennel, having the door closed, and it not being that big of a deal to the dog. We're spending a lot of time with a settle command with her just so that we could have that calmness. So I was working on it inside the kennel and outside the kennel. So when she started getting wild and crazy, we started working on settling. And she was really mouthy. So she's trying to grab up at my face. So we moved her face and let her kind of just not be in my bubble as much. She's welcome to come get loves, but we settled when she started getting crazy like that. So we're back here. She can choose to go in and out. There's no forcing. And I just spent a lot of time hanging out here on the ground with her. I wanted to see if she would choose to go in and out at all on her own. There were cookies in the back. So I just sat and I just let her kind of do her thing. So as we're working with our puppies, that can be something that you do. Sit down, the door is open, there's cookies in there. If they choose to go in, oh, look, cool. There's a cookie. I'm not worried too much about it. Oh my goodness, this makes me miss her. She's such a good dog. But going in and out is an awesome thing. There's no big deal. I'm not making a big deal. There's no rush for me to get away. It's kind of like our little kids when it's like, I have to go, I have to do something, and we're putting them to bed. Then they just like, we want you to stay with us. And I found that to be true with a lot of puppies. They're like, as soon as we want them to like go in and we got to hurry and close them in, it makes them not really love the kennel nearly as much. They want us to hang out with them. So that was the session. Now she's just exploring, which is totally fine. There's no reason for her to have to hang out with me. And then here, I'm just going to show you this last one where this is on day 2, working on her having to calm down before she can come out. And this is the last thing I'm going to go over, and then we will, I'll end. So this is me coming out. First thing, she sees me and she's excited, but she moves into that down all on her own. And then she gets excited, which is fine. And then she calms down, which is what we're looking for. And I am expecting a calm a lot longer. As I get closer, she freaks out. So I'm getting to the point where it's time to let her out. However, I am not going to let her out. So anytime I'd approach, she'd do this little freak out like this, and I'd hold. I got my foot down there, and then I'm holding there, and I'm waiting for that calm, and then we'll let her out. So we spent a lot of time doing that, and then she'd go back in and we'd practice again, later. But anytime she was getting out, it's my messy garage. Anytime she wanted to get out of the garage, this is what it looked like, because I couldn't open that kennel while she was pushing on it. So she had to be calm before she could get out. These were some of like the biggest things that I found that were the most helpful as I worked through that kennel stress with Athena. So each dog is going to be different. The pace that they get things is going to be different. But every dog has that potential to be able to work through those kennel steps. So if you're having questions or you're having struggles, feel free to reach out to DM me. I'd love to help you kind of work through that with your dog. Because it is stressful when we're trying to leave, or we need our dogs to go and relax for a little bit, and they can't, or they won't, and it just becomes this stressful event for everybody. It's stressful for the dog, it's stressful for you, and we just don't want, we're not wanting to have to, oh my goodness, I just lost my brain. It's stressful, and we don't want to put them in the kennel because then they're going to scream, and then it makes us crazy. And so working through things where we're not really in that big of a hurry, where we're just playing a game with them, where it's good and wonderful, and we're really just practicing and being really patient through all 4 of those steps, can make your life a lot different as far as the kenneling goes. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to reach out. But thanks for those that jumped on, I will, I want to do a live in the next week or so, either next week or the week after. So if you have any questions, feel free to, or I'll make a post, and if we have some things that are in common, I will do a live on some of the stuff that people are struggling with right now. So, all right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Have a good night.